I was in labor for 14 hours when my mother-in-law said, "She's weak. Our women never needed drugs." My husband agreed. "She's not built for this." I gave birth alone while they ate in the cafeteria. When they came to see the baby, I told the nurse, "Don't let them in." But 2 weeks later, they got a notice that made their faces go pale. My name is Lauren, I'm 34, and I live just outside Columbus, Ohio. This happened 6 months ago, and I still feel it like a bruise that hasn't healed. Eric and I were together for 10 years, married for 6. We met in high school, did the long-distance thing through college, then moved in together when we were 25. On the outside, everything looked good. He was funny, charming, and said all the right things. But what I didn't realize, what I didn't want to see, was how much of him came from his mother, Carla. Carla never liked me. From the beginning, she made it clear I wasn't what she pictured for her son. She's one of those women who prides herself on being tough and old school. She'd say things like, "When I gave birth, I was folding laundry the next day." Or, "I never needed an epidural, I just bit down on a towel." That kind of thing. At first, I brushed it off. I figured she was just trying to feel important, but it got worse when I got pregnant. It was a hard pregnancy. I had morning sickness until 16 weeks. Then came the back pain, the round ligament pain, the blood pressure checks. By 34 weeks, I was measuring big and couldn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. My doctor said I was borderline for preeclampsia and wanted to induce early. Eric didn't come to half the appointments. He said he was busy with work. He also started repeating Carla's lines. "Pregnancy isn't a sickness. You need to be tougher." My mom did this 3 times without complaining. I told him it wasn't helpful. He said I was always negative. By the time I got to the hospital at 6 a.m. on the day of induction, I was already drained. Eric barely looked up from his phone. I asked him to hold my hand when they started the Pitocin. He patted my knee like I was a dog. No words. Just, "You'll be fine." Women do this every day. The contractions were brutal. I went from a 3 to a 6 in 2 hours and felt like my spine was splitting open. I asked for the epidural. He sighed. "Already?" Then Carla showed up. She didn't knock. She just walked in like she owned the place. I was lying there, sweating, groaning, trying not to throw up from the pain. She looked me up and down and said, "She's weak. Our women didn't need drugs." Then she looked at Eric and said, "You sure she's built for this?" Eric chuckled. Not a loud laugh. Just a soft agreement. "She's not built for this," he said. Like I wasn't even in the room. Something in me broke. I stopped looking at them. I just stared out the window and stopped speaking. They stayed for maybe 15 more minutes, then Carla said she was hungry. Eric said he'd go with her to the cafeteria. He left me, in labor, alone. The nurse came in after they left. She looked at my face and asked, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just said, "Can I have the epidural now?" 4 hours later, I was at 10 cm. No sign of Eric. I gave birth with a nurse on one side and a tech on the other. They were kind and they told me I was strong, but the truth was I didn't feel anything except numb. Not from the drugs, from the betrayal. Eric strolled back in about 40 minutes after the birth. He was holding a soda and talking about how slow the cafeteria line was. Carla was right behind him, asking if I'd picked a name yet. I hadn't even cleaned up. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't say they were sorry for missing it. That's when I looked at the nurse and said, "Don't let them in." She asked, "Are you sure?" I said, "I don't want them near me or the baby." She turned them away. Eric got angry. I heard him yelling in the hallway. I closed my eyes and held my son tighter. He left. Didn't come back that night. I went home 3 days later and told Eric he could sleep in the guest room. He acted like I was overreacting. He said, "You're still mad about that?" Like I didn't just go through the hardest moment of my life alone because the 2 people who should have supported me decided I wasn't worth it. But I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I made a plan. And 2 weeks later, I sent a notice. One that wiped the smug look off Carla's face and made Eric sit down with his mouth open. It was only the beginning. After I gave birth, something inside me changed. Not in the cliché way people talk about becoming a mother. I mean, something sharp clicked into place. I stopped needing anyone's approval. I stopped making excuses. I saw everything clearly, especially Eric. At first, he tried to play it cool, like it was all a misunderstanding. He said he didn't know I was that far along when he left for the cafeteria. Said he thought he'd have time. That he didn't mean it when he said I wasn't built for childbirth. I didn't argue. I just stared at him. And I think that scared him more than yelling would have. When we got home from the hospital, I went into full survival mode. I was breastfeeding, healing from a tear, barely sleeping, but I made every move count. I didn't let Carla come over. She texted constantly, saying she had a right to see her grandson. I ignored everyone. Eric told me I was being cruel. I said, "You left me. You don't get to tell me what cruel is." 3 days later, I found out Carla had made a Facebook post. It was a picture of her holding a random newborn, someone else's grandchild, and the caption read, "Some women know how to raise a family. Some just fall apart. I'm glad my son knows the difference." That post had 60 likes and a string of comments praising her strength. I didn't respond. I just saved the screenshot. Eric begged me to let it go. He said she was just emotional. But he still didn't delete it. Still didn't tell her she was wrong. He didn't defend me once. Then the real conflict started. I told Eric I wanted to start individual counseling. He laughed and said, "Is this because of labor?" I said, "No. It's because I can't raise a child with someone who watches me suffer and walks away." That night, he slept on the couch. By the end of the week, he stopped helping with the baby. He'd go to work, come home, and play video games.
No battles.
No diaper changes. Nothing. When I confronted him, he said, "You froze me out. What did you expect?" I expected a man. I got a child. 2 weeks postpartum, I met with a lawyer. Quietly, I asked questions. Gathered paperwork. I kept receipts, texts, screenshots, every insult, every absence. The notice I sent? It wasn't a text. It wasn't a letter. It was divorce papers. Served on a Friday morning, while Eric was eating breakfast. Carla was there, too. I'd invited them both under the lie of a baby update. They sat across from me, with smug looks, until the process server walked in and said, "Eric, last name?" His face went pale. Carla looked like she'd been slapped. I stood up, picked up my son's car seat, and said, "You said I wasn't built for this. You were right. I was built for something stronger." But it didn't end there, because Carla wasn't the type to take a loss quietly. And Eric? He was just getting started with his games. I thought the divorce papers would be the end of it. I thought once Eric realized I wasn't bluffing, he'd back off. That maybe he'd take a long look in the mirror and grow up. I was wrong. He got worse. At first, he tried to play nice. Sent long texts saying he missed his family, and how he was willing to work things out if I apologized to his mom. He actually said that I owed Carla an apology for creating drama during the most important moment of our lives. I didn't reply. A few days later, I started noticing strange comments on my Facebook posts, fake accounts posting things like, "Too bad some women can't keep a husband," or "Real mothers don't raise babies alone." They always disappeared within hours, but I took screenshots. I knew it was Carla. The writing was hers. The cruelty too specific. Then came the custody threats. Eric filed for 50-50 custody. Not because he wanted to be a father, he barely knew how to change a diaper, but because he wanted control. He wanted to punish me for humiliating him. His lawyer was aggressive. Claimed I was emotionally unstable, said I isolated Eric from the child, and even implied I had postpartum depression that made me unfit. I'd seen it coming, so I'd kept records. Every night he didn't come home, every missed doctor appointment, every time he left me alone while I was healing. Still, it wore me down. I was exhausted, healing from labor, waking up every 2 hours to feed, and now fighting for the right to raise the child I gave birth to alone. And just when I thought it couldn't go lower, Carla showed up at my job. I work in administration at a local medical office. She came in, smiled at the front desk staff like she was visiting an old friend, and waited until my lunch break. Then she cornered me in the parking lot. "You think you've won, don't you?" she said. I didn't say anything. "You'll never keep that baby from his real family. You're not strong enough for this." Then she spit at the ground, just barely missing my shoes, and walked off. That same week, Eric posted a photo online, him holding our baby at a supervised visit with the caption, "Strong fathers rise. Weak mothers run." I reported it. His lawyer claimed it was free speech. I was at my breaking point. I had family, yes, but they lived hours away and worked full-time. I was surviving off frozen meals and 4 hours of sleep a night. But I didn't cave. I built my case. I kept every screenshot, every insult, every threat, every post. I even started seeing a therapist voluntarily just so no one could twist my mental state in court. What they didn't know was I had one final card to play. Something that would make all the lies they told collapse in front of them. Something they didn't even know I had. It would be public,
Permanent.
and undeniable. But I had to time it right. I waited until the custody hearing to deliver the final blow. It had been 4 brutal months. I'd lost weight. My hair was thinning from stress. My son had developed colic, and I was running on maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. But I never missed a deadline. Never skipped a therapy appointment. Never yelled, even when I wanted to scream. Eric kept trying to look clean. In court, he wore a tie for the first time in years. Carla sat behind him every time, arms crossed, like she was the one on trial. She even tried to speak once. The judge shut her down immediately. But they were smug. They thought they'd win. They thought they could paint me as emotional and unfit. That the court would see a tired, single mother and assume she couldn't handle it. Then my lawyer brought out the binder. A full, alphabetized, time-stamped binder. Every screenshot, every text, every social media post, every passive-aggressive jab and direct insult. Every moment they documented their own cruelty. Then came the witnesses. The nurse from labor and delivery? She testified. Said I gave birth alone. Said she saw my face when Eric and Carla walked out. Said no one should have to go through what I did. My therapist? She testified. Said I was exhausted, not unstable. Said I showed up. Said I took initiative. That I was trying to protect my son from psychological harm caused by emotional neglect. And then I played the recording. I'd recorded the parking lot confrontation with Carla. Her voice, clear as day, "You'll never keep that baby from his real family. You're not strong enough for this." And the sound of her spitting at me. The judge looked at Carla and said, "If you speak again, I'll have you removed." Eric's lawyer started backpedaling. Tried to claim Carla didn't speak for him. That Eric just wanted to co-parent. But the damage was done. The final ruling? I got full legal and physical custody. Eric was granted supervised visits only, pending a full psychological evaluation. Carla was barred from contact indefinitely. And then came the cherry on top. I emailed that same binder to his employer. You see, Eric worked at a family-owned HVAC company, but they prided themselves on family values and had a strict harassment policy. Screenshots of him mocking my labor, his mother attacking me online, and even pictures of him vaping during visitation? That was enough. He was let go a week later. Company restructuring was the official reason. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I just changed my number. I blocked them all. I focused on my son. On healing. On sleep, finally. But the best part? 6 weeks after the ruling, I got a certified letter. Handwritten. From Carla. It said, "I was wrong. You are stronger than any of us." I didn't reply. I framed it. Because that woman who said, I was too weak to give birth? She'll spend the rest of her life remembering that I did it alone. And then made sure they never got to forget it.